Hi, this is Jonathan Baumgart. I'm the CEO of Atomic Consulting. In today's video, we're going to talk about tied agents and appointed representatives, or ARs. So, what is a tied agent or appointed representative? What does this mean? So let's get started with the definition. The specific terminology is really going to depend on the region that you're talking about. So in Europe, a tied agent refers to, I would say, a quasi introducing broker or IB slash franchise relationship with an existing brokerage. So that's a mouthful. Let me explain what I mean. Let's say that you want to launch your own broker out of Europe. Well, what do you need to do that? You need to have an office, you need to have a substantial amount of capital, whether it's STP or market making, you need to have business plans, all of this. It's a significant investment of time and money. So some of those who, let's say, have an active book of business don't want to go through all of the regulatory steps involved to achieve a license, which could take well over a year. So a compromise in Europe is to become what's called a tied agent. What that means is you have at least a website, a book of business, perhaps some technology that you are leasing, like an MT4 platform or MT5 or CTrader, what have you. Basically, you have all aspects of a broker, but you're not licensed. So rather than waiting over a year to get a license, you would partner up with an existing licensed broker. And basically, everything that you do is umbrellaed underneath them. Now, this has to be clearly defined, meaning on your website, should you decide to become a tied agent, it's made very clear. All of the paperwork and everything else will say that, keep in mind that deposits cannot be held by a tied agent, that the money must go to the broker sponsoring this tied agent, etc. It's a compromise between having a full-fledged brokerage and starting the broker yourself. That's why it's called tied agent, because you are tied to the main broker. So that's a very basic understanding, and I look at it as a hybrid model between starting a broker that's completely your own and becoming an IB. It's a little in between, because the main advantage is you're able to leverage the regulation of the licensee or the broker that is sponsoring you. So with this definition in mind, let's talk about the other variations. An AR, or appointed representative, in the UK, known as an FCA AR, is exactly what I described with the tied agent. The only difference is the regulator changes. And in Australia, they also have an AR or a CAR, which is a corporate appointed representative. That's usually what you're going to receive as you're a corporate body that is working with an ASIC licensed broker. So to recap, whether it's an AR in the UK, whether it's an AR in Australia, or a tied agent, the concept is the same. The difference is the regulatory requirements. So in the UK, the FCA has different types of requirements, reporting standards than, let's say, the EU, most commonly in Cyprus, than in Australia, or ASIC, which is the regulatory body in Australia. So depending on which region you work with, you may have different requirements. You may be able to do more or less. The general rules apply, though, that you're working with a broker who is providing the licensing. So what are some advantages of becoming an AR or a tied agent, regardless of what the regions are? Well, one is, I've outlined, you can leverage the license of another broker. It takes a very long time. It's costly as well to obtain a license. And maybe your broker has plans for that, but you don't want to wait over a year, which is on average how long it takes for these regions, or you want to test out your idea of launching a business, but you don't need the full-on regulation. So as a compromise, you can become a tied agent or an AR. You run your business as you see fit under the rules that the tied agent or the AR have to follow, which are set by the regulator. The main difference is it has to be clear to the investors or the clients who sign up that you're working with a licensed broker. That's where the funds are being held. That has to be transparent. But you get to leverage the namesake of the license, which is very helpful. It means, for example, which is the next advantage, you don't have banking headaches. So right now, it's very difficult to obtain a bank account when you don't have a license. I've dedicated a whole video to the topic, which you can check out above. This is not easy in 2020, and as years pass, I imagine it's going to be even more difficult. So trying to get a bank account is very difficult if you don't have a license. So an advantage of being a tied agent or an AR is that you don't have to worry about that because you're leveraging the banking of that broker. The third advantage, I would say, is you can more quickly grow the business and get to a point that it's generating the proper revenue to obtain a license. So, the common kind of idea in business or something you should follow is to grow the business and then expand. There are firms that will spend money on a license, on technology, and all these things, but they forget the most important point, which is to generate revenue and to onboard clients. So you can use the tied agent or AR relationship to help grow and ramp up the business. And once it's generating the proper revenue, then go down the path of obtaining a license. And I can say that any regulator will be much happier to work with an AR or a tied agent that already demonstrated the capability to operate under another broker than a completely new company. So that's let's say a sub benefit is when you want to get a license down the road, then you have the advantage of being able to show the regulator that you've already been operating in a quasi-legal capacity already. What are some of the limitations? Obviously, this comes with limitations. I've already mentioned one, that the tied agent cannot hold the funds directly. That is a limitation, that they have to go to another company. But there are always trade-offs. When you get a license, there's trade-offs, and that's just part of operating a business. So that is one limitation. The other limitation is you are restricted as to what can be said, what you can discuss, what you can mention on your website. All of this must be approved by the compliance team of the licensee or the broker that is sponsoring you. So keep that in mind, that you cannot write anything you want. Any changes you make to the website must be reviewed. And in addition, so a third limitation is you'll be paying the licensee some type of money, some type of monthly fee, since they have to dedicate additional time for their compliance team to review and to examine the website, perhaps record calls and review them just to make sure they're compliant. Why is this important to mention? Keep in mind that the regulatory burden falls on the licensee or the broker that's offering either the tied agent or appointed representative services. So they have to be sure that everything remains compliant, otherwise their own license is at risk. Hence the fees that they charge to make sure this is the case, and the reason they need to have a general overview and review everything on the website and all communication material. So with that said, personally I think that a tied agent is a great compromise for a broker in this middle period, which we're coming across more often in 2020. As I mentioned, it's very difficult to obtain banking solutions. So many times we speak to brokers that are IBs or have just launched business, but they're struggling to obtain banking. So a tied agent or AR option could be a good fit for what you're trying to do. because it'll offer you everything you need to at least get the business started. There are many licensing options you can consider once the revenue is justified, and from there you can branch off and grow your own brokerage. Nothing is stopping you from doing that. And as we've mentioned in many videos and on our website, many of the larger brokers out there began in this very fashion. It's actually rare for a broker to get the license, get the software, and then grow and get the clients. Usually they start from a grassroots type of level as an IB, graduate to something like a tied agent, and move on from there. So if you'd like to learn more, feel free to contact us. Our contact details are found in the description section of the video. And I'm also linking a couple of articles that we've written about tied agents or appointed representatives in places like Australia or UK, so you can have a chance to review and learn more. So I wish to thank you for your time today, and don't hesitate to reach out if you have questions. Thanks.